All right, thank you for being here. We are going to talk today about intuition versus spirit info. And this is Tara Winter. Tell me where you are again, Tara. I always forget.
I'm in Illinois.
I don't know why I can't remember that. And my name is MaryAnna. I am in Colorado. I am the energy reader, if you will. I do teach it. I do readings, and I also teach classes and courses. An energy reader, in case you have not watched other videos, is an evidential medium, a psychic, an animal communicator, and an animal medium, and a nonverbal communicator, all rolled into one great package, sassy package, fun package, whatever.
Well, I mean, it's something that not everyone has those skills and abilities to tap into every single, or have not. I wouldn't say they don't have those skills and abilities, they haven't developed them. So you
Yes,
have really done the work, your homework, to develop all of those areas where you're able to communicate. So that makes you very
absolutely.
unique.
Thank you. And that is what I teach. And one of the reasons, and I digress again, and everybody will get used to this. I start with one thing and I'm extremely ADHD and I'll go to something else. But one of the things that irritated me um, about classes is that they kind of nickel and dime you.
Yeah.
Here's a psychic class, here's a mediumship class, here's an animal communication class. But then I realized as I was doing it, they don't know how to go from one to the other to the other. So it wasn't always necessarily that they were nickel and diming me. It was that they didn't know how to put all that together themselves. And so when I was creating Energy Reader, which I trademarked, which was another source of drama on TikTok, they were like, "You can't do that." And I was like, "Well, I mean, you could look it up." I
You
don't,
can look at my patent,
yeah,
my
yeah, or
trademark.
trademark, which I
Trademark,
filed
yeah.
for, which I don't 100% understand the entire trademark process, but I have a decent idea of it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I realized as I was putting that together and putting the course together and putting the book together that I am doing this in a unique way. And one of the things I always like to say is that I did not invent mediumship. I did not invent psychic ability. I did not invent animal communication. I think honestly that all of this has always been around. Always,
Oh, yeah.
literally always. Now, it was popularized in the 1800s, and I do have other videos on that. But a lot of people like to act like they are that they invented it, that it's new, that there's, blah blah blah. We all are unique, but we're standing
Yeah.
on the shoulders of many, many great people who came before us. And I always like to give them their props because they really broke the ice, so to speak, in mediumship and in psychic abilities and animal communication and the acceptance of it. Um, Again, James Van Prague, he can be kind of a people love him or hate him, right? But
Yeah.
he was a pioneer. He was literally a pioneer in this field. You take a man, and I think he might be 5'4", right? So you have a short man, and he's in his late 60s now, I believe, maybe 70s. So he was number one, gay at a time when it was not cool to be gay. He was a medium in a time when it wasn't cool to be a medium. He went to a religious school.
Yeah.
Like he grew up in religion. So can you
Trauma. Lots of trauma there is what I see.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. So he had to fight, in my opinion, from the outside looking in, because I mean he knows who I am, but we aren't best friends by any stretch of anyone's imagination. He had to fight stereotypes his entire life. And so I think Edgar Casey, the ones from the 1800s,
Yeah.
and again, I have this all written down. There's a better video on this in my playlist. They are the ones who really broke the ice for people like you and I today. And so what I'm hoping to do, one of my goals, is to kind of bring back the expectations of mediumship and psychic ability through energy reading and calling it energy reading. It takes away the fear, right? We're not talking to demons. We'll do a whole nother video on that. But it also takes away some of the stigma because there's a lot of con artists. I don't think
There are.
Sylvia Brown. I don't think a lot of people refer to Sylvia Brown. I think she was a complete con artist.
Cold reader. Yeah.
Absolutely. But today we're talking about the idea, and this is very popular on TikTok, uh, one of the misfit medium who I like and I personally have interacted with, and I think and I've heard very good things about him as a medium. But one of the things I disagree with him on is he always says your intuition can never be wrong. He says that
Yeah, and I think this is a really good point because even, and we'll get into kind of some of the different, what does that mean? Um, Even for me, when I'm doing a reading, I can have spirit say, tell that person to trust their intuition. And it is, when I see it, I see the person weighing, right? The definitely like the Two of Pentacles type of, weighing
juggle.
what's happening in their life and saying, tell them, trust that instinct. But let's talk about what is intuition. What are we talking about? Because I think there's two or three maybe distinct uh, differences between intuition as it is defined, which is our past, our subconscious, things that we've learned in the past, things that learned patterns, observations, things we are drawing on. It and can be defined as that gut feeling. We know through studies that people that use a combination of their intuition and their logical mind make better decisions. There was a study called The Role of the Intuition in Decision Making, a meta analysis that was in the Psychological Bulletin that talked about how people make better decisions when they use their intuition, but it's not the sole thing that you use to make a decision, right? And that's, I think, where
Yeah.
you're talking about is that somebody's saying, just use your intuition. That's a loaded, that's a loaded gun right there because you're not drawing on all the information that you need. It's a tool.
100%.
Divination, it's a
And you
tool.
and you started to define intuition as past experiences. And one of the very salient points that I always want to say is when you have people who have been through trauma or who have childhood PTSD, they have been conditioned their entire lives not to listen to their intuition.
Exactly.
Therefore, their information, for example, if you were to take somebody who's been cheated on again and again and again and then lied to and gaslit by a narcissist, and then you tell them, but just trust your intuition. No, because their intuition has been literally brainwashed into believing that everyone is lying to them at this point because they've been lied to in the past so many times. So one of the things when you're doing psychic readings, a lot of people, some psychics, they're like, oh, I would never ask the cheating question because they call this the third party reading. So go watch the video on third party readings if you're interested in that. And they say that isn't like they don't deem that important enough to ask on behalf of the sitter. Okay. And the hard part about that is that the sitter needs that neutral third party validation because they don't trust their own self to decide. So people will say, "Oh, if you have to ask, then you already know the answer." That's not true. That isn't true. So, a lot of times our intuition can be incredibly wrong based on past experiences, based on past brainwashing, based on past trauma, based on our fears. Are we bringing fear?
Exactly. And so when we talk about intuition in that way, where we're drawing on past experiences or knowledge that we have, I think there's also a different term of intuition where you're drawing spirit information. So there are two different, distinctly different ways of intuition that I think there's a learned skill in being able to get spirit information and applying it just to as yourself as a psychic medium or an energy reader. So I think that in personally, uh, being able to get with your guides and get information and apply it is a whole nother learned set of
It is,
skills.
especially if you don't trust it yet. Especially if
Yeah.
you, and here's the thing that I always say, and I've said to him, and I've said it to him, personally. I've said, if our intuition was always right, we'd all be playing lotto and we'd all be right because our intuition is never wrong. So if your
Right.
intuition is never wrong, we'd all be in perfect marriages. We'd all be in the perfect job. We'd all
Right.
be millionaires. You know what I mean? We'd all be driving the perfect car. We'd be living in the perfect house. So it's very disheartening, I think, to tell someone who is either grieving or in crisis, or who is unsure, maybe if their spouse or significant other is lying to them. I think it's very disheartening. It's very disempowering to be like, oh, just listen to your intuition. It never lies to you. That is asinine. It's
Well,
toxic.
especially is intuition as defined in those past experiences and that learned things that you learned that may be correct or not correct. So the information that you're pulling from could possibly not be correct. And that's why you use your critical mind in order to use it as a tool, marry it together to make the best decision that you can. In the case of spirit information that you're getting, that intuition, again, it falls in a different bucket for me, as far as being able to apply that information outside of your gut, right? So to me, it's two different buckets of information
Yes.
that that you know through development, through classes like yours, you can learn where that line is. What is it that is your past experiences that you're learning from, that you're bringing into this decision, or what is it spirit information is bringing through, and do you
Absolutely.
trust it, right?
I just got kicked out of another group yesterday on Facebook because that's what I do. I go in and try to debate people and nobody wants to talk about it. Everybody wants to take offense and everybody wants to be like,
Well, let's talk about it, because
right?
this is
Let's
how this
talk about
happens.
it. Anyway, I went in and it was an argument, and I have screenshots actually because I knew where this was going. I've been um but it was an argument about the devil's, so this is tarot, the devil's card and the lover's card. And they were arguing that both cards are not about choices because the devil's card, you're enslaved. You are, quote, addicted, right? You know where I'm going with this one. I saw that face. And so to me, obviously, the chains are very loose in the devil card. You can take those chains off. Being addicted, being enslaved, being in a toxic relationship, while dramatic and trauma based, is still a choice. And I'm a perfect example because I stayed in a dysfunctional marriage for way too long based on the gaslighting, based on the trauma bonds, based on codependency, low self-esteem. And so that's what the devil card is. The devil
Absolutely.
card is accepting that toxicity into your life. Anyways, we go back and forth, and this gal was just super rude to me. And so I was a little bit rude back. I'm like, first day on the internet. I mean, right? So, and of course, I'm the one that ended up having to leave the group because people are offended when you don't agree with them.
Yeah.
I'm not sure
And they
where that
don't
was
know. I
going.
mean, there's no critical thinking about, well, maybe I need to understand that the chains are loose and I could slip my hand through that at any time with a choice, right? The
Mhm.
chains are, you're never permanently chained. So I feel like that if people aren't willing to grow or listen or even stand in on their own truth, I mean, and that
Well, now
people that you need to be,
this goes back to where the sitter needs to be discerning about who they go
yeah,
to for a psychic reading, because you're going to
yes.
get a completely different reading from the person who believes you are enslaved and incapable of making choices than you are from someone like myself or Tara. Myself or Tara, we're going to point out that, in at the bottom, the least common denominator is that you're making a choice right now. And that choice is keeping you in a toxic relationship, or that choice is keeping you in a dysfunctional marriage, or that choice is doing XYZ. So you need to understand how your reader, what they are going to present you with, right? So if I pull a card and I pull the devil, I'm going to say, okay, and this is where feedback comes in. I see some toxicity in a relationship. Would you understand that? And they're going to be, it's a yes or no question, right? And they
Yeah.
could be the toxic one. They could very well be the drama. And so I think it's important when you have a reader to know kind of where they're coming from and their level of maturity, because to me, it's a level of maturity to say, oh, you're trapped. Nobody is technically, I mean, obviously, unless you're a serial killer's, latest victim, it's very difficult to say you're trapped, right? Because we all have
Right.
choices.
Yeah. And we were talking about choices, and that, you know, you choose, your path could change at any time. And when you are doing a reading, it is for the moment that this is occurring, but that doesn't mean that in 5 minutes you're going to make another type of choice that will send you on another path. So,
Exactly. And I really like the way you brought up, because I went into this actually wanting to talk about your intuition isn't always right. And Tara brought up spirit info being different than intuition. And so when we talk about that, it's very interesting because I went into this not understanding just how many downloads spirit, the other side, God, whoever you believe in, gave me. And in
yeah,
the last 5 years, now I wonder if I've ever had an original thought of my own. I'm like,
I, I do that as well. I mean, I think about, wow, how many times have my spirit guides, interrupted the thought or kept me safe in a time where I was maybe, not making a good choice,
I'm surprised to be alive.
just through intervention, right? I mean, I think about that every day. So,
This
but yeah, you're right.
this is a good example, my own example, sadly. I'm not proud of this because I did not listen. But I was trying to catch my canaries because I let them free flight, right? And so they were in my restroom and they had free flight and they go back to their cage at night, or they go back to their cage to eat and drink and all that stuff. And I wanted to clean the room. And so I was trying to catch one of my canaries. And I distinctly heard my grandmother, who raised canaries and finches and birds, say, "You're going to kill that bird. Stop. You're going to kill that bird." And I was like, well, I still have to get the bird. I have to clean the room. I have this is the time. I had this window of time. And so because
Right.
we're human, and because I didn't want to change this window of time and maybe clean the room another day, I kept chasing the bird. Well, canaries are delicate, and I kind of overtaxed his little heart, I think. And then I put him in a smaller cage, and then I put him in another room where the sun was coming through. Long story short, the canary died. Right. I know. Again, not proud. I very distinctly, spirit came in the form of my grandmother, told me exactly what I needed to hear. And because I am a stubborn human, I did it anyways. And lost my canary and was super upset. And so the moral of the story, I think, is that the number of times that spirit comes in that we don't listen is incredible, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
I agree
Go
with
ahead.
that. And that's why I wanted to separate between the intuition or that gut feeling that you get and actually developing your gift enough to understand when it is someone from the other side or energy from the other side that is warning you or telling you something. Because I think that there's two separate, like I said, buckets of information that you're leaning on or tools that you're using. So I think that's a perfect example.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is going to be a shorter one, definitely, but let's give, I guess, to segue into that, one of the ways that I think that people can listen or learn to listen to their intuition is definitely what you've already described, in that it isn't just asking your gut. It isn't just asking your heart or
Yeah.
your brain. It is a combination of, is this realistic? I think sometimes we get locked into our own imagination, our own drama, our own fears, and that's going to override our common sense anyways. And so when you're asking yourself something about a painful decision, number one, you can go to a psychic like myself or Tara, an energy reader,
Yeah.
and we're going to help you because it's that neutral third party. And when you hear it from someone else, it's very much a catalyst, to being able to make a better decision. But like you said, you're going to take past experience, you're going to take current experience. You could even sit down and kind of meditate on different scenarios and go into your future energy and say to your own energy, literally your own higher self, if you will, your own future self, and say, I have some scenarios. Let's go through some of the, what could
Yeah.
happen. What is my best scenario here? Um, but we're never going to stop making mistakes. And I think to think otherwise is foolish, whether we're energy readers or psychics or mediums or, prophecies or prophets or Gandhi, whatever. Maybe Gandhi didn't make mistakes, but I know I'm
Oh
gonna.
no, I'm sure he made mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. There's no one on a no
Well,
human.
and as humans, I think that's part of the experience. So to think that suddenly, just because we're psychic or just because we're mediums or energy readers, that suddenly we don't make mistakes or that we're not
Yeah.
still human is very short-sighted. It's very, it's undermining. It's really
Yeah.
undermining yourself as a person to think, oh, well, I trusted my intuition. And then when it blows up in your face, are you ever going to trust your intuition again?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I had never really thought about it in that way until you had said that in class and you said, no, 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 wait a second. I don't believe that. And, it even challenged me to think about my value based in bringing through information like that. Because, like I said, I'm guilty of that as well. And I did have to go introspective and say, okay, where is this information coming from? And why was I saying that? And you're absolutely right. Somebody that has trauma, when we're talking about intuition, we need to define the intuition. What is it we are exactly saying? I think that's very important. So I learned so much just from that pushback for me in developing my gift and bringing through information for the sitter. So,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. And one of the things I think for people who might be listening who are teachers or mentors is that you still don't have to be rude about it.
no,
You can tell someone or ask someone, so where do you think that's coming from? Like, is that coming from your younger self who's afraid
yeah,
to let down the wall? Is that coming from? I remember I was doing a reading for this gal one time, and she was really neat, and she was thinking about going into she had two different avenues she could do. And so there was one that was safer, and then there was one that was a little less safe, but more exciting. And it was really interesting because her younger self came into the reading. And I was like,
I love that.
oh, it was so cool. Yeah, I wish I could I'd have to go find it through all the readings and stuff like that and cut it out. But I said, I'm seeing you were 17 to 19 and you were just a spitfire at the time. And you were, so as an older person, she was heavier. I said, I see you as less heavy, but I don't feel like that was the reason that you had all the guts that you had. She goes, no, it wasn't. And she knew exactly, like she was there in that moment, like exactly. And it didn't have anything to do with the weight. And someone who wasn't listening to the energy would assume that because she was heavier now, maybe that was uh, shortening her choices, if you will.
Yeah,
It had nothing to do with it. And so we went through this reading and I talked with kind of her younger self, if you will, and we had this conversation and I brought stuff up that she hadn't thought of in years. And
yeah,
and so for the people that think, oh, a psychic or an energy reader can suddenly see everything in your life, that I don't believe that also. I think that we see exactly what we need to see in order to kind of trigger a memory or trigger something in the sitter. And so that's a whole different
yes. And we
kind
should explore that topic as well, because
yeah,
I've heard that multiple times on many other platforms about, oh, they're going to see every little aspect of my life. And that is just not true in my experience.
I'm
So
gonna write this down. So again, with TikTok, there was this one guy, he calls himself a Hawaiian shaman, and he literally says, "Oh, I can see everything that you've ever been through." And I 100% don't believe that. I think he's blowing smoke. There was that one medium, I think it's oh yeah, Megan Elisa, because she's in my TikTok videos where she's like, you can see everything anyone's ever been through. No, I don't see everything everyone's always been through. And frankly, I don't see everything that you're going through right now. Like if I were to tap in with you, where's my cards? Like let's say that I was to bring up my cards and we start doing a reading, right?
yeah,
The cards, in my opinion, are going to give me what you need to hear right now. They aren't going to
yes,
give me, and it's still going to be a certain amount of information. It isn't going to be everything. I'm not going to see behind your bedroom walls, so to speak. I'm not going to see, anyway, a lot of psychics and mediums like to pat themselves on the back and give people the idea that they can, quote, see everything and read minds. And that, in my experience, also, that's just a load of hockey. That's just
yeah.
bull crap.
I think you're exactly right. We see what we need to see and that's my belief. We see what we need to see. I don't get extra information about something that doesn't apply. And
Yes.
even if I've tried to get that information, I don't think that it would come through because it doesn't apply to the moment. It's not something that,
Yeah.
and maybe it's a value based judgment on myself. So, but I
So
don't
when I
believe that.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just to say, I don't believe that, people can see everything.
I don't either. I don't either. I think again, I was reading for someone another time and I was like, you had something that happened in your childhood between 6 and 8 years old, and then again at 12 to 13 years old. And the person validated that and they said, absolutely. And then we talked a little bit about what that meant for them in their life now, because there is a cycle of fear,
Yeah,
but I still don't know what those incidents were. I got an age. I got that it was life changing. I got that it was family orientated. And then we went on to how that was affecting her now. So when I
exactly.
went to Venice, and not to sound like an asshole, but I didn't necessarily learn anything new, but it did validate a lot of information because I went to a tarot retreat from someone who's been doing this for like 40 years. And so I do think it's amazing and awesome that I am already doing everything that this person is teaching after 40 years in the business. But he was doing a reading and he did that as well with the cards. Now he actually reads where he doesn't actually get a lot of feedback. He just reads, you never say anything, and he just keeps going. I don't read like that. I don't think that that's as handy, but that's his style. But he had a really good point, which I agree with, and which I've also said before, is he said he pointed out also that this person had a very impactful something had happened to her at 18, and it was very impactful to her entire life. And he told the class, he said, now I could figure out what that is if I wanted to, but then I'm just showing off because she
Mhm.
already understands the importance of the
What
information.
that is, right?
She
Exactly.
already understands how that's affecting her life right now because I brought it up. So he didn't waste the further energy to go into what it was, right? She already knew. And so that's one of the things that I think people who are, again, are underdeveloped, they want to kind of show off and be like, oh, and I don't know what happened to this woman at 18, so don't get this wrong, but let's just say pull something out of the hat. Somebody had been raped at 18, obviously. So when you have people who are underdeveloped, they keep pushing and they keep pushing and they keep pushing. Oh, you were raped. Well, what good did that just do? The sitter already knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So now we've given energy to the words. Now we've kind of brought back memories that maybe that sitter didn't want. So we don't have to push it. Once you know what it is, then let it go. So we kind of already talked about that. So I guess I'll put down intuition and seeing everything for this description. Um, but going back to intuition, I do think it's very important. Oh, you know what I did want to bring? I know what I wanted to bring up. There is something called psychic spying, and I 100% think that people do this and that it is able to be done, if you will. there are people who will kind of come into your energy to either see what you're doing, see how you're feeling. Because if you aren't feeling good, let's say you're depressed, somehow it makes them happier because that's where they are in life right now, right? So there is something called psychic spying, which is a whole different level of shenanigans than going
Well,
into someone's
that's
energy.
to me, that is, I mean, while you definitely, I mean, I could do that. I mean, but do I want to do that? I
Who
don't.
has that kind of time? I have no idea who has that.
I don't know. You know, for me, it's not something that I quite frequently, I've even had, you know, a client text me and say, "Do you feel my brother's energy?" No, not today. I'm not dialing him up.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I have felt, again, that gal that I took classes from in the UK, she was it's really interesting because she was actually good at teaching, but she was so kind of caught up in her own level of how important she thought she was. And so
Yeah,
she came at the class one time and she's like, I can feel you guys psychic spying. And I'm like, what? Yeah. And so this other student and I had been talking about the way she teaches and how, what we were learning. And so we're having a normal conversation that students have. Like I know that my students have had conversations about me, and okay. I mean, that's part of being a teacher. That's part of being a mentor. And she was really irritated. She's like, I can know you guys are talking about me. And I texted this person. I was like, she has to be talking about us, right? Because but the funny part is that is going to happen. We weren't saying anything bad. And even if we had been saying something bad, it's going to happen.
yeah.
James Van Prague always says it's none of your business what other people think about you. And
No,
never
that's
fully,
true.
I never fully understood that though until some of this started going on. Some of this with the drama and I know you're talking about me, and I'm like, okay, well, I know you're pinging in on my energy. I got to the point where I could feel her pinging into my energy. Um, it was wild. But it was a really interesting experience because it let me really determine different levels, if you will, of the energy. So the other night when we were doing class, I pointed out, I think it was Lana, I go, oh, you have started feeling the different levels of energy. You have started
Yeah,
deciphering between different, and she was like, yes. And I was like, very, very important that you are as that sensitive, because what we tend to do as humans is deaden that sensitivity, whether we do
yeah,
it with drugs or whether we do it with alcohol, or some people do it with exercise. They exercise so freaking much that they're in a constant state of euphoria almost, and that deadens our awareness as well. And so we spend TV, news, politics. We spend so much time deadening the very senses that we need to survive and that we need to do this work. That when we try to reawaken them and when we try to re-engage them, it is like going back to class.
yeah. 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
And as far as people, I'm just thinking about the psychic spying. I mean,
I mean, that's what
why?
remote viewing is. And
Yeah.
that's why
And I've
all these
remote
people,
viewed, but in
I,
a different way. Like,
I have too. Yeah, it's cool. It's cool as shit. It's really very similar to the energy reading, in my opinion, because you're going
yeah,
to where it is. And in fact, when we were doing, so for those who don't know, Tara and I have started a nonprofit called Find Me Investigation, Forensic Investigations. And it's about cold cases and missing people. And we have 3 kind of active cases, if you will, right now. It's a nonprofit. We're just starting it. It's not, it has a long way to go. It has a long way to grow. It
yeah. I mean,
has a long way to go.
it's a baby. It's an infant.
Right. But one of the ways we use what we know, what we've learned, what we're continuing to learn, including me, I'm always learning day to day, in and out, literally 24/7. If I'm not working my regular job, I'm doing this kind of stuff. I'm reading about it. I'm learning it. I still take classes, right? Uh, But one of the ways that we go into the information is a form of remote viewing. And so we can tackle that in another video or on a live or something like that. But when people put parameters around what they can do, then that's exactly all they can do.
Yeah.
And so one of the big things too that I'll do another video on is third-party readings, what that is, what it really is, and the kind of the drama around that, because I don't agree with most of what TikTok or Facebook or all these kind of holier than thou, soapbox readers believe.
Well, energy is energy, right? And it has its, I don't know, do you put rules on energy? We don't even know all the
You can
rules for
try.
energy.
Right. Yeah, no, yeah, I love it. We don't know. We don't know. And so one of the things you'll find on my channel is that I don't buy into something just because Dolores Cannon spent 30 years preaching it. I think Dolores Cannon is one of the most toxic aspects of spirituality today.
Yeah, and she did a lot of regression type, work there that weren't on her own belief. I mean, these aren't things that she brought through. These aren't things that these are through other people. So it's very third party-ish.
It is
Um,
very third party-ish, and she's
it's
repeating.
suggestive, right? Because when
Yes.
you're in a hypnotic state, it's very suggestive.
Very suggestive. And there's this book called Journey of Souls, I think, if I'm getting it right. And he literally says in his foreword, and I may have to look this up, so don't hold it to me out there, but he says in his foreword, he says, I would, before he regressed people, he would tell them what to expect.
Yeah.
That's like,
Suggestive.
it's completely suggestive. And then he put in his foreword, a lot of people will dismiss this information just based on that. You're right. I will, because you've suggested to them and then put them under hypnosis and then gotten exactly what you suggested.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the gal that asked me questions for 20 minutes and then fed back to me the information that I'd already given her. That's not
Yeah,
magic.
that's not what, yeah.
Not magic.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this one is much shorter. Thank you for being here, Tara.
Yeah.
We
You're welcome.
talked
Anytime.
about intuition, how it is not always right, and you definitely should not just make life decisions about work, love, is he or isn't he cheating, because this could be very much based on past trauma. This could be very much based on your imagination. This could be a looping cycle of thought forms of fear.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
any last words?
No, I think you're correct on that. Intuition is designed in to be used as a tool for making a decision. It is a collective piece of critical thinking, things that you know today, things you know from the past, and putting it all together to make the best decision. So just to say, I'm going to rely 100% on my gut intuition is leaving out giant holes in the information that you need to make a decision. And then there's the
Absolutely. I love it.
spirit energy, which can be a whole different thing. But
Yes, absolutely. And that now we also touched on that psychics can't see everything. I think we should still,
no,
I'm going to have to go back to
psychics
TikTok.
can't see everything. And those of you that do say that, get in my DMs.
Yeah, prove it. No, that's a
Prove
good one.
it.
Yeah. I'd like
Prove
to know
it.
what happened to me between the ages of, you know what? I won't even say what ages. Why would I give the ages? They could
Right.
see everything. They know what ages it was and what it was. I would love for someone to come on here and give me a reading like that where they just see so much information that I
All
would,
your information.
yeah, that I
Again,
would be in
prove
shock
it
and I would
and
shut it down.
maybe and we'll put it out there. Maybe we are being limited in our
Yeah,
thoughts
you're right.
but prove it.
Yeah, yeah. Which technically normally I don't like that kind of, come
Mm-mm.
at me energy, like the prove it, because that's what like that Dustin the mentalist does, prove it this and prove that. I'm not giving you any parameters. If you can see my life, come to me and tell me something.
Yeah. So I said, get in my
Come on.
DMs because I want to talk to you.
Sorry, I had to mute myself there. Hopefully, you know what? I didn't mute this fun little thing though. So I wonder if my coughing is gonna blow someone's ears out. If it does, I apologize. Maybe I can
I
cut
didn't
that
hear it.
out. Okay, good. But I don't like when people say, if you can, because Dustin the Mentalist, he holds up this piece of paper and he says, tell me what's in this envelope. Like, you know, Johnny Carson and the great, whatever that guy was,
Like
Carmack
a
or whatever.
side trick.
Yes, yes. But if you believe that you can see everything about my life, I would love to have a reading from someone like that, and we can videotape it. And my life is kind of an open book, so it would have to be something that I haven't already talked about online, number one. And it would have to be, you know, it'd have to be in detail. You can't just come at me all vague, like, well, when you were a child, you had some hard times. Well, no shit. You know what I mean? I've already talked about my dysfunctional childhood. I would have to have like some specifics. But other than specifics, I don't have any parameters, you know.
Well, for me, I mean, one of the things, if people are saying that they can do that, I'm not going to say that they can't. I mean, necessarily for me, when I see it, I do not believe that people can see everything. But if there's someone out there that says that they can, give me the intimate details, right? The
Yeah.
intimate details of a situation
Yeah.
where you can read all of that energy.
I'd be and I think some people say, well, you wouldn't be honest about it. I'd be so honest about it. I'd be so floored. I'd be like, oh
Yeah,
my God,
yeah, yeah,
that's exactly what happened. I would be tickled. But I think what the universe shows us, or spirit guides, or whoever you want, or energy, whoever's on the other side helping us do this shit, I think they give us as much as we need, and that's it.
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't think they sit around and want to, you know, stand by the water cooler and gossip about the sitter. I don't think that's the point. I don't think that is helpful.
Now there might be some truth bombs dropped
True. True. It's a good point.
inadvertently,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. No, good point.
But it's
Absolutely.
not, it generally is not
I think we all have
scandalous.
things that we could refer back to that we're not proud of,
Yeah.
you know?
Oh yeah.
And so I do think that's the good way to put it. So anyway, we're starting to ramble. Thank
Okay.
you for being here. I
Yes,
think the
thank
next
you.
time you see us, we were going to talk about outdated ideas in mediumship. So
Ooh,
don't let me forget,
that's a
Tara.
big one.
Yeah, it is, especially when you're a history buff like I am, because I like to read through the old mediumship books and I like to read through some of the old, you know, tricks that they've tried and kind of, you know, anyway, we'll see you next time.
All right.
Thank you for being here.
Bye.